5:53 p.m. Spurs are out of a second cup competition in the space of 72 hours, and the truth is that their squad, quite understandably, cannot handle the loss of three such significant attacking figures as Kane, Son and Alli. 3 days after losing to Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, in which they gave everything they had, Pochettino's backup options fell short again at Selhurst Park. Those key injuries are a huge caveat to what is likely to be another debate about what this Spurs side can achieve, but the manager isn't going to pretend to be happy about this week's events. Palace, deservedly, are in the hat for the fifth round. 5:48 p.m. There will be 4 added minutes of Victor Wanyama trying to pick out a Spurs teammate in a packed Palace penalty area. 5:45 p.m. Spurs unwilling to load it unceremoniously into the mixer, which is to their credit, sort of, but Palace are happy to let them try and weave 2 attacking tapestries in the space of the next 5 minutes or so. Meanwhile, Townsend off, Jordan Ayew on. 5:42 p.m. Palace threaten now, Townsend lays it across to Van Aanholt, but he's held up by the Spurs defense, or what remains of it. Moments later, Zaha tries to catch Gazzaniga out at his near post, but the keeper reads it well. 5:39 p.m. Spurs replace Mora with young Kazaya Sterling, but there's little time to make an impact. 5:37 p.m. Max Meyer off for Palace, Luka Milivojevic on for his FA Cup debut. 5:36 p.m. Spurs still trying to prize apart the Palace back 4, 5, 7, 9, and just end up running into each other. Lamela tries one from outside the scrum, but it's straight down Speroni's throat. 5:31 p.m. A fourth block tackle briefly looks like turning into a 50-yard lob, but Speroni gathers easily. Palace have plugged the gaps very capably in this second half, and time is running out for Spurs to make a dent in this 2-goal deficit. 5:27 p.m. Foyth is faced with Zaha in the box, but he keeps his head and his feet to stop him in his tracks rather tidily. At the other end, Trippier finds Nkoda with a deep cross, but he can't clip the ball back to a white shirt in the middle. Palace sub Christian Benteke replaces the scorer of the opener, Connor Wickham. 5:24 p.m. Chance, Nkoda bursts into the Palace box, lays it off for Lamela, but his half volley is blocked. Moments later, Trippier's volleyed cross shot just evades the sliding Llorente at the back post. Spurs chucking everything at Palace now. 5:20 p.m. Spurs change, off goes Dyer, on comes Victor Wanyama. 5:19 p.m. Spurs certainly testing Speroni now. Dyer charges into the box, finds Llorente, but his scuffed shot is smothered by the veteran. 5:17 p.m. Foyth now goes into the book for pulling back Schlupp on the edge of the Spurs box, and now Palace have a set piece to play with. Max Meyer or Van Aanholt? It's the latter, and it's straight into the wall. 5:15 p.m. But his curling left foot shot finds the backside of Van Aanholt. 5:14 p.m. Free kick to Spurs, right on the edge, after Mora is clipped by Schlupp. The Spurs players want a penalty, VAR is double-checking it, but it's still only a free kick from 18.00000001 yards. Lamela over the ball, 5:12 p.m. booking for Davinson Sanchez, who is beaten to the ball by Townsend on halfway as he commits to the sliding tackle. Palace going to be great fun on the counter for the next half hour or so. 5:10 p.m. Save. Llorente gets half a yard in the box, twisting to hit a left foot shot towards the bottom corner, but Speroni gets down superbly to tip it wide. Spurs all over Palace. 5:08 p.m. Tidy Spurs approach play through the middle, before Eric Dyer swings in a superb cross that Joel Ward has to divert over his own crossbar. He and Mora collide in doing so, and they both need some brief looking over. 5:03 p.m. We go again at Selhurst Park. Eric Lamela is on for Jan Vertonghen, as Spurs reshaped to get back into this. 4:49 p.m. An absolute mess of a first half for Tottenham. Palace were out of the traps first. Connor Wickham's opener had been coming, and then Kyle Walker-Peters conceded a mindless penalty to make it 2-0. There was still time for 1. George Kevin and Kodu to miss from 8 yards and then 4 yards, and 2. Kieran Trippier to put a penalty wide. Spurs supporting cast have been disastrous basically. 4:44 p.m. and Trippier has slapped his penalty wide. What an afternoon for Spurs. 4:43 p.m. Van Aanholt can't believe it, but it's clear foul on Foyth as the ball ran across the Tottenham man's body in the box. Referee Kevin Friend waited a second or two, but he's spot on. 4:41 p.m. Oh my. Spurs have a free kick on the edge of the box. As everyone wait for the shot, the ball is laid wide to the unmarked George Kevin and Kodu, whose shot is saved by Speroni, and the rebound is deflected over. What a chance. 4:36 p.m. What a save. Palace should be 3 up, and Spurs are all over the shop. The ball is laid across for Townsend to stride onto from 15 yards, but Gazzaniga is at full stretch to stop it. 4:34 p.m. and Palace are 2 up. Townsend, against his old club, sends the keeper the wrong way from the spot. 4:33 p.m. cross comes in, Walker-Peters jumps, arm up high, the ball lands on it, and it's a penalty. He does not argue. 4:30 p.m. Spurs now probing in the Palace half, but they are yet to test the reflexes of 39-year-old Julian Speroni in the Palace goal. 4:27 p.m. Palace break from a Spurs corner and, suddenly, they're 4 on 3. But Townsend overruns it. 4:24 p.m. Townsend gallops upfield again, with Joel Ward for company, but he overhits his pass into the channel. But he's getting a lot of joy out on the right flank so far. 4:20 p.m. Patrick Van Aanholt fancies his chances, dead center, 30 yards out, but Gazzaniga gets himself right behind it. Spurs still weathering a bit of a Palace storm. 4:16 p.m. Juan Foyth lunges into a loose ball, but takes out Zaha in the process. He, like Kouyaté a few minutes ago, gets just a ticking off. 4:14 p.m. Andros Townsend wins a corner from Walker-Peters, who has the pace to keep up. The delivery is half cleared, Wilfried Zaha has a fierce cross shot blocked, and Spurs are clinging on to the ropes a bit. 4:12 p.m. 792 days since Wickham's last start. VAR, by the way, is active today and it had no problem with Wickham's goal from an offside perspective. Pochettino looks pained on the Spurs bench. 4:10 p.m. Hello. His first start in over 2 years, and Connor Wickham has a tap-in. Jeffrey Schlupp bursts through the Spurs defense, his shot is half saved by Gazzaniga, and Wickham is there to convert from 2 yards. BT Sport are calling it a fairy tale, which is a bit of a stretch. 4:07 p.m. Sheikh Kouyaté clips Mora, who was in full flow in the Palace half, and he's perhaps lucky to escape without a booking. Walker-Peters lays the ball into Oliver Skipp, but he curls the ball tamely wide for a goal kick. 4:05 p.m. Spurs dominating the ball in the territory so far, with Lucas Moura operating the central mischief role in Christian Eriksen's absence. 4:03 p.m. Kyle Walker-Peters ventures forward from left back, looking very right-footed in the process, and helps win Spurs an early corner. Kieran Trippier trots over to take, but it's knotted away by a Palace head. 4 p.m. Spurs get us going, in their traditional colours, kicking towards that famous pocket of particularly vocal Palace fans. 3:58 p.m. looks nice and cold down there. 3:55 p.m. From all the way back in 1979-80, Ricky Villa earns some classic Barry Davies, worth a try. Ho! And how it was worth a try, from 25 yards against Palace and their classic kit. 3:44 p.m. The Crystal Palace manager knows which side his footballing bread is buttered. It's nothing like the glittering prize it was in my youth because we have the Champions League and Europa League now. Not many have the ambition to win the FA Cup. The FA Cup is still being won by the top teams, and our position in the table, 14th, isn't as good as we'd like it to be. What is my ambition? To advance in the FA Cup and get to the semis or the final, or stay in the Premier League? My ambition is to stay in the Premier League. 3:36 p.m. 6 The last 6 matches between Crystal Palace and Spurs in all competitions have all ended 1-0, 5 Spurs wins, 1 Palace win. Fine. Optajo. At Optajo. January 27, 2019, 3:32 p.m. 2 games for Fernando Llorente deputizing for the injured Harry Kane. 2 goals, but only one of them at the right end. At Stamford Bridge on Thursday, Matla observed the curious spectacle of a backup striker trying to rediscover his touch. Fernando Llorente will no doubt have taken confidence from his goal credit. Getty Images. Nobody can blame the 33-year-old for being rusty, for needing time to readjust to first-team football, having spent most of his Spurs career warming the bench, but he could have at least run about a bit. While many of his teammates who have been asked to play 3 games in a week for much of the campaign chased, harried and, in Eric Dyer's case, fouled, Llorente pretty much stood still. Pochettino bellowed, Fernando, as he tried to get some instructions across to the forward midway through the first half, but that did not seem to provoke a response. Llorente had been preparing for a move back to Athletic Bilbao before Kane's injury, and he looked like a man who wished he was somewhere else. 3:14 p.m. Our man Ross Clark has found the value for this one. It probably will not be considered too much of a shock if Tottenham are knocked out by another Premier League side on Sunday, but the 2-1 available for a Crystal Palace win looks just too big to ignore. With Tottenham short on star quality through injuries and international call-ups and losing on Thursday night in the League Cup, there are sure to be plenty of tired legs on show, and Mauricio Pochettino will surely make multiple changes ahead of a tricky home match against Watford on Wednesday. While Crystal Palace are never a team to have complete faith in, they have showed in recent weeks, with victory over Manchester City and a 4-3 defeat to Liverpool, that they can compete against the bigger teams, and Roy Hodgson's side will have far fresher legs. 3:05 p.m. Palace lineup thus, with a start for the eternal wonder kid Connor Wickham. Meanwhile, Spurs stick with Gazzaniga between the sticks, as well as giving starts to Juan Foyth, Kyle Walker-Peters and Oliver Skipp. At William Hill odds 18, https://t.co/G5 his OZDZWS. Tottenham stumble at the penultimate Carabao Cup hurdle at Stamford Bridge on Thursday once again emboldened those who believe all progress, all perceived overachievement, all positivity means nothing unless, at the end of it, there's a massive silver cup with ribbons on it. Mauricio Pochettino's reaction to his failure, in official terms, at least, to restore Tottenham to their glory days, that was to point out that those glory days predated colour television. Tottenham, no history of winning, said Pochettino. Our glory, I watched the video about the glory, it's with Bill Nicholson. It's black and white and I watch it nearly every week. To create again that feeling you need time. 4 years, 5 years, that's nothing in the history of the club. Pochettino has defended his Spurs record as the wait for a trophy goes on credit. Getty Images. More to the point, Pochettino, while hardly declaring that trophies don't matter, insisted yet again that Tottenham deserved credit for their gradual upward trajectory. Remember, we were unbeaten, 19 games in the Premier League, at White Hart Lane in our last season there. And no one said what it means to move to Wembley to play and create another project. Not only this, but we are going to play only 1 season and then it's nearly 2 seasons and no one says nothing. When Arsenal moved after playing in Highbury, people talked about massive problems, how they were still paying for it and this and that. They are talking about Tottenham winning. We still need to finish our stadium. We still need to create the basis to have the possibility to win, hang up or no hang up, though.